again in case anybody wants to say anything they wouldn't want recorded. I would say, again, if you missed the early banter, GSuite revolutionized what it was like to try to run email and calendaring in a program without having to do tons of deciphering Microsoft jargon and licensing. It was really a nightmare back in the day. And GSuite was for me, I think, a total godsend. Somebody, if you would mind muting yourself when you're not talking, that'd be awesome. And we loved it. It did not get the traction that I expected. And so part of the reason I'm telling you all this is that the folks who know me know I was talking about Google options back at TIG conferences, like, I don't know, before Obama was elected the first time. And but as a market share, it really hasn't been growing here among our client base. So I still want to do it. I'm still interested in those integrations. To be honest, I just have to put a little more resources into the Microsoft world, because that's tons of people are choosing that. So I want to be really just forthright with you about where we can put our extra energy. But I love it. And one of the reasons I love working with it is you'll actually find that our options that are both in other worlds and in Google world, they're almost all cheaper, sometimes half as expensive for the G Suite version of the tool, because it is so much easier to deal with in terms of APIs and integration. So that's the G Suite platform in general. And I'm gonna share my screen here in a moment. Oh, I would. There we go. Here it comes. We'll just share my whole screen. And then, okay, can y'all see my screen?
Yeah, we see it.
Yes.
Terrific. Okay. All right. So the first thing is, integration that we have right now is single sign-on with G Suite. I absolutely love this. I'm totally convinced that at some point all of you will have to be doing multi-factor authentication. Single sign-on with G Suite is a wonderful way to do that. So you can use all the tools that the Microsoft engineers build for single sign-on, including sending a message to a phone via text. So that's still around, even though there was a hack, yes, I know, last year, but my conclusion is that's not that easy to do, and you're still way safer with the text to a phone being the second factor than you are with no dual factor. They also have little keys, so little like key fob things with special codes in them that you can use for your second factor. And then an app, so you can have a little authenticator app. And I just want to explain a little bit how that works. So the idea is you land on your login screen for Legal Server, and there's a little button near the login box that just says login with G Suite or login with Google, and you just click on that and you're in, because you've already logged into G Suite anyway. So it's one click thing. You don't need to remember your password. You're just in. There's a bunch of other things that we'll eventually be able to build on that, because now we know who Google thinks you are. And what it does is it checks to make sure that there's a valid email address in Legal Server that matches the person trying to log in. And then it says, does the person with that email address, are they logged in? Are they authorized to do this? And if Google says, yes, they are, then we let you in. And again, you can use Google's dual factor tools. So once every, I don't actually remember how often it is, every once in a while, when you go to log in, G Suite will say, I want to make sure I know exactly who you are. Here comes, authenticate, right? And there'll be a second way that you have to tell Google you are who you say you are. That could either be a code to your phone, like I say, a special YubiKey, whatever their engineers are developing right now, retina scan, blood sample, who knows what else is coming. But one that I really like is an app that goes on your phone. And what that does is it says, okay, to prove you are who you say you are, tell me what the secret code is that's on your phone right now. And for those of you who haven't seen it, what it does is the Authenticator app, I'm going to just show you what it looks like. The Authenticator app, let's see if there's anything you can really do with this. Not really, I'll hide this one. The Authenticator app, it just scrolls through codes, right? So there's numeric codes on it all the time that change every minute. And you put that code in, and then Google says, aha, you must really be who you say you are, and it lets you in. The reason I'm spending so much time on dual factor is because I think that's probably the greatest, it's a great advantage, and you're gonna eventually need it for your email and all your docs anyway. My feeling is that your workers probably don't want to do multi-factor authentication for legal server separately from their G Suite and separately from all their other tools. So you're probably going to be looking at trying to get all your web services all tucked in under the same identity provider. And Google's humongous and they're almost never down. So what better platform to hook into than theirs? This one, I know it says Microsoft on there. It just happened to be the slide that was up. But we support Microsoft Azure AD, also one called Okta. So let's just say you didn't want to put all your bet on G Suite to be your identity provider, which you don't actually have to use them for anything else if you don't want to. There's a platform out there called Okta that I think is pretty cool that does something similar. And really what it does is it's the door, it's the security at the door. It's a velvet rope line. You know, they're checking out, see who exactly you are and what you're allowed into. So I'm going to stop right there. Are there questions about single sign-on for G Suite?
So there's a process we have to do in G Suite to force the single sign-on. And we do have that sort of force, but in my world, it doesn't happen as often as I'd like it to happen. In G Suite, can you force that verification to be more often than every 60, 90 days or whatever it is?
You know, I actually don't know if that's something you can adjust the frequency. There's the last time I looked though, Alan, it seems like their security stuff there's more and more options. So it's worth looking at.
Yeah.
I know that I travel a lot and it seems to know that. So when I pop up in Detroit, it seems to me that I get prompted sooner than when I'm sitting here at home.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
There may
But
be,
you know, like
maybe some analysis.
You know, if you run G Suite in a browser and you close that browser without logging out, next time you open that browser, you're still logged in. That's always been an issue for me. I want my users to always log out, but most of them don't.
Right, that's true.
And if you have in legal, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
You have in legal server a time logout. The single sign-on still obey that time logout.
It does. No, it does not. And actually, we're working on building something so it will ignore password expiration optionally. I'm talking about long-term password expiration. So, yeah. So because some people want it to work that way, and there are agencies right now who their workers don't know their username and password. They've never ever put it in the legal server, so they only use single sign-on, and they love it. And it's $900, which is cheap, about half or less what it is with Microsoft right now.
Yeah.
And currently, I don't know if this is going to continue. Currently, there's no monthly fee with the G Suite single sign-on. There is with the Microsoft tools, because we're actually probably going to add a whole bunch of other little bits on there. But I don't think we have any monthly right now on single sign-on for Google. So get it while it's hot. There's a lot of neat things we may be able to do based on that, because we're going to know exactly who you are. So think about it, and especially the minute you hear somebody, if you hear your ED say, "Oh, you know what, we're being told by X insurer or funder that we've got to have multi-factor," and you're a G Suite shop and you're not planning to change, to me it's a no-brainer. Go do it, and then you can even do multi-factor on just select humans, which is not a terrible idea. Now in legal server though, yeah, that's right, we can have optional or enforced for everybody. You can't yet in legal server pick only certain people to be SSO. Okay, so I'm sorry, anything else on single sign-on? I'll wait for a minute and I'll look in chat. I guess I won't look in chat. There we go. Oh, there was maybe something in chat. Okay, just everybody saying hi. Okay, groovy. All right, so the other thing that exists right now is Team Drive integration. If you haven't been using Team Drives, they're, you know, I think a pretty important piece of what it's like to use G Suite for in an enterprise, because it gives you all those controls that you kind of wanted for file sharing, and there's more locked down than just sharing an individual folder. Also easier as far as ownership. It's owned by the organization, so you don't have to worry about individuals as much. It's pretty simple in the way it looks. There's some more things we're sort of looking at here, but essentially you just drop this block on the case profile. So this is looking at a case. And what it will do, it's search-based. Unlike every other document integration we have right now, it is search-based. There's no magic folder required. The only thing that's required is that the document is in the team drive that you've specified in the block, and that somewhere in the document, anywhere in the document, is either the exact case number of this case or both the first and the last name of the client. So it's not magic folder. It's going to give you more results than you would if you are struggling to get all your stuff into a folder. And we are open to, if this gets some more traction, we're open to people telling us about other search parameters that they'd like to have by default, and also via the API. And I see one of our developers is here, so listen up, Jake. So another thing that we'd really like to do, as long as we can handle the speed, is basically make the filters work. To you, they'll just look like the filter, but in the background, we'll actually send another API call. So let's say you wanted a filter for, you know, I don't know, the name of the document contains banana. We'd love to be able to add some more sort of search parameters here on the fly, and lots of other potential. But what will happen is, because you're already logged into G Suite anyway, because you use it for your email and your calendar, even if you don't use our single sign-on, when you click on one of these documents, it's going to open in the G Suite context. So you'll still be on the web. You'll open your whatever it is live to do whatever you need to with that document. So question
you
about
only have
Team Drive.
one team drive or does every case have to have its own drive?
No, definitely not every case. Hell no.
Thank you.
It's oh God, no. There are most folks, I would say, only need one team drive. However, it was actually Lee Remigio who kind of nudged us to figure out that you can actually have more than one team. You can put this block on this case profile more than once. So I saw an example where I think it was actually Lee experimented with this, where you've got the regular team drive documents, and they made a whole separate team drive for their pro bono cases, ones that were pro bono right out of the gate. And so this list appears twice. Now the list is going to be different, of course, because it does a search inside of team drive number 1, and it also does a search inside of team drive number 2 for this list. But yeah, you can have, but I haven't seen anybody try more than 2. You probably could, but remember that in the background, as you load the page, legal server's like, oh, Alan wants to look at this. And it sends out the request to Google, and it's like, please give it back really fast. Please give it back really fast. Oh, got it, just in time. And then we draw it on the page. So if you try to do that with, you know, a whole bunch of different things, it's not going to be a pleasing experience, because there'll be a little delay probably.
So what's the experience? I can see a problem with having the case number in a document, because a pleading you file in the local courts, they have their own case number. It's not going to be in that document. You might have the client's name, but we have clients that have same or very similar names, and we have clients that have many cases. So every client, if they got 3 cases, every one of their documents is going to show up on every case. People are going to have that problem with text, you know, showing up in multiple cases.
That's true, but I forgot one additional test. So there's an additional filter, default filter, which is that the document was created after this case was either opened or intaked.
Oh, okay. That's a good idea. That helps.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself. So that whittles it down quite a bit.
It's not perfect, but it's improvement.
It's not perfect, and I do want to keep adjusting this to give you, I mean, one thing I'd really like, Jake, is maybe a real-time search thing where you could just type in whatever you want, you know, and then get that back from Team Drive right here. But that's not, if you're going to do that, you may as well just hop over to the Team Drive. So we got to balance the usability and quick loading with but I'm happy for you smart folks who start using it to, I'd love to have some other options here. And a real dream one day is that you could maybe use a guided navigation logic and the same logic engine and guided nav to build a very complex set of rules for what appears here by default. My feeling though is that this is actually more exciting to me than the magic folders, which we have to rely on in most document integrations because, you know, and then one day, if there's still folks using G Suite, I would also love to see maybe a button that's like guess for me, where we send quite a few pieces of data about the case over and use some AI in between, yes, actual AI in between to make really intelligent guesses for like, here's some documents that might be relevant that where it makes, and then maybe we get some human feedback where you can say, yes, that was relevant. And one other feature that we're thinking about is essentially the ability to pin the document. So let's say you're like, oh, that test-document.docx, that's the most important document about this case over in Team Drive. I'd love to be able to pin that so that every time you load this, you get that document, even if somebody went and changed the text in it. So anyway, let's see.
Is this just one more question though? Is this kind of like a live drop-in folder, the same way the regular documents folder where you can drag and drop a document into this folder?
That's a great question. I forgot actually, Alan, that's probably next. Like a hotspot is actually next on my list for Team Drive. We talked about it, but I don't think we're ready for that. But yeah, I would really like to be able to drop it here. Now, one sort of issue, and I thought we had this one showing folders already, is then the where. Like if you drop it, if you just dropped it right here, it's going to drop it in the root level. So you may have to think about something different.
Here's a suggestion. If on your Team Drive you just name the folder with the case number, and so your AI just, or whatever your API just found the folder with the case number, and then people always save things for a case in the folder with the same number.
Yes, that's right. And I need to check because we have talked about surfacing. Maybe that needs to be a configuration item. We have talked about surfacing all descendants, all of the things inside of a folder. It definitely does find folders that have that name as well. And I will for the next screenshot show that it can show a folder as well as a result. Maybe a toggle on off thing that says if the exact case number is in the folder, show all of its children regardless of their content. I need to actually, I'm going to write that down. Show descendants.
I mean, you know that Three Rivers is one of the heavy users of the document storage and legal server.
Yeah. Yes. I can hear the server. I can hear the servers complaining right now about heavy load.
Anyway, so this would offload a bunch particularly if you could do that kind of folder idea, I think would make it easier for our users to deal with.
Great. What I need is these good ideas, and then I frankly just need more people using it, right, to make the use case for getting this.
Make it easier, we will.
Priorities. Chicken and the egg, right? So yeah, when you save documents in Legal Server, I see some questions. If you save documents in Legal Server, they're still saved in Legal Server. What this does is on the case profile, you can still see all the Legal Server documents and things you've generated there. But think of this as and in addition to that, in the sidecar of the motorcycle over there in Team Drive, here's all these other things that might be relevant to this case as well. Probably distant roadmap, depending on adoption. It's something we're looking at in the Team Drive context. Eventually, we want to give people more ability to basically not save things in Legal Server and automatically save them to their document storage tool. that's it's a pretty big project, and they're all a little different. So we're creeping that direction.
So here's another idea. Write down the way you have the block to create folders. Like when we at the end of our intake, we create a bunch of default folders in every where we store documents in Legal Server. If you had your API automatically create a folder with that case's number, its name, and certain subfolders, because that would be beautiful.
Yeah. You can do that probably right now, actually. And for Google, you don't even, so we have to go build that for all the other document management systems.
Right.
For Google, you can use our generic, which I'm changing the name, by the way, to General Outgoing API, because that thing does so much stuff now.
Okay.
I bet you that right this minute, you just hide the generic outgoing API block on wherever you want and send an API call over to GSuite, and I bet you can do that right now without us. And if you take a shot at it and you get it built, but it's just not quite working, send me an email or send it to support, and we'll see if we have any suggestions.
Yeah,
so
it'd probably be something like,
you
go see if these folders exist. If they exist, we're done. If they don't, create them for me. Something like that.
That's right. Oh yeah. So the if part, that might be a little harder. You might have to get a real programmer to look at that on the G Suite side. But if you're not afraid of a little redundancy, I mean
that happens already with
the
other block, create folder blocks. Sometimes we end up with duplicates because somebody clicks back on a previous step and creates them again.
It's worth looking at. Yep. Is somebody else? Hello?
Yes. We're wondering about like occasionally somebody will start like an intake process or do something else that you just can't delete in Legal Server or you can't undo. And so we have to like basically recreate the record again. Does this mean that if we were going off of case ID, then we have to go into each document and edit the case ID if we can even, well, I'm sure we can edit everything, right? Some of them might be PDFs, or is there like, do you have any like a trick for that?
Sorry, I was muting myself. I think what you're saying is somebody starts to create a case, and then for whatever reason, maybe they suddenly just realize it's a duplicate, and so they reject that case as duplicate, but maybe they've grabbed a couple pieces of information that really should be in the original file. Is that the case, the scenario?
Pretty much, yes.
No, I don't have any magic for that. I think that's unfortunately for now, I'd say that's a manual, go fix it. But I understand what you're saying, and that's a little bit annoying.
It doesn't happen.
They don't have a clever way.
Every day, but yeah. But okay, that's good to know. I think the benefit might still outweigh the.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so there's Steve. Thanks for joining, Steve.
Sure.
Posted a link to our help site that has more information about the Team Drive integration. Check it out. Let's get some more people using it. So this next one isn't technically a Google. Oh, whoops! No, you're not supposed to see that yet. Oh man, that's not what I wanted to show. I overwrote it. All right, so you're just gonna have to trust me on this one. There's a new iframe block, and this is free. It already exists right now. So for those of you who know, it's always been the case that you could embed an external page inside of Legal Server. That's usually a little ugly, I gotta say. Like it's not the panacea that it sounds like, I guess, because it just is weird to have another page inside of Legal Server in many instances. There have been some very clever uses though. Any of you who've onboarded with Legal Server in the last 3 years probably saw that we actually embed a checklist right in the first page. We embed the training calendar right inside the Legal Server. And Google works beautifully with that. And it doesn't hurt your eyeballs as much as some other things that get that you embed. So we've seen people do things like they have let's say they just got visited by LSC and they're super paranoid about all their, you know, certain rules they want people to review. You can have a step on your intake and embed some sort of guidance as to financial eligibility right there that you only have to update in one place, and it's always seen by your user. So we already have instruction blocks in Legal Server, but there's some other fancy things you can do. One agency wanted kind of a fancy calculator, and they wanted to pay us to build this block. And I was like, you know what? You're not really saving the data. You're just trying to do some math. Why don't you just you know, embed a Google Sheet, one that does the math for you, you know, and give that a whirl. Like, it's going to get changed every time somebody types it in, but that's something to think about. So there's lots of potential with that, and we've made it much easier. So now there's an iframe block. You don't have to know any HTML, like all of us who remember the last millennium, and make it pretty easy. Yep. Okay. So Steve, why don't you just say what you're typing there?
Oh, sorry, Jeff. There was a question in the chat about showing or not showing documents based on pro bono restricted access roles. And I think that was a good question related to the Google Team Drive. And I think the big thing there is to decide whether or not you want to show that list view on particular profile views based on user role, and or just bear in mind that if the pro bono restricted access user doesn't have access to your Google Team Drive, that if they clicked on the link, they wouldn't actually be able to access the document. So if you're not putting anything really, if you're careful what you put in the title, you're okay, I guess, is my point.
Right. That's right. You could hide it from the pro bono restricted access profile so they don't have any access to it, or do what the one of the programs did, which is basically they make a separate box for the pro bono ones. Now, yes, it's true. All the pro bonos would see that. We don't have a way to know granularly what permissions you want to give to each file, to each person, because those live in another box. But if you can control that, and as Steve said, if the person clicks on that link, you can control the permissions over in G Suite however you want to, and the person clicks on the link, they will see the title, but then they won't be able to see it because they don't have access. So, but there are some, you know, again, this is not right around the corner, but for folks who do end up with single sign-on, we're going to know exactly who you are. So right now we have to do this search as basically as a all-powerful user who can see everything in order to do the search. But once we get to the point where we're doing single sign-on, we will be able to actually do this search as you, and that's going to change everything, because it'll change. You'll only get back the results that user, as long as G Suite supports this, which I bet their APIs do. You'll only be able to see the things that you have access to. So, but yeah. Okay, so check out the iframe. I bet you there's something that you would find interesting and fun to stick in there if you scratch your head about it a little bit. It could be just yeah, and Google makes those things easy. So the slide that I messed up, GSuite Calendar. This was an experiment done with Law New York as part of a TIG. This is what it looks like at the moment. I'd say it's maybe a little more than beta, and I believe this one comes with I think this one comes with the Team Drive integration, but I need to check with my team. We haven't figured out exactly which group this belongs to, but it's promising, I think. So the idea is you get an additional tab in your calendar view, and what this does is based on who you are, and that's kind of why I haven't been out there promoting it. It's a little annoying when you load it. There's a link that nothing will show here, and they'll say you've got to authorize Legal Server to read your calendar, and you authorize it, and then it works for a while, and then the authorization just expires, and the next time you pop in, you got to do it again. We don't think that users are going to love that, so we're still trying to figure out how to make that more persistent. Again, probably we can do it more consistently for folks who are using SSO. We'll see, but if you don't mind clicking on the authorize, if your users don't mind clicking on the button that says authorize Legal Server, what it does is it goes out and it reads your calendar, your Google Calendar for today, it presents it in what I think is not a bad view. This looks almost native to Legal Server. And one of my favorite things is you can create a case time slip from that event. So let's just say this meeting was actually a meeting with the client. If I click create time slip, and it would create a 50-minute or rounded to whatever your time specifications are. It would pull up the case time slip, and it would pre-fill it with some of this information. So it would take the summary and it would put it in the activity details. It will use the date. I don't think we're actually grabbing the time, but I don't know. I can't remember if we're grabbing the time or duration actually this minute, but it will sort of pre-fill several elements of a case time slip to make it a little faster to make time. And so we need to make this a little easier for people to click on the button and reauthorize it. And then the next piece of development that I want to do here is let you make not just case time slips, but let you pick what kind of time slip you want to make. So you could create a leave time slip or an outreach time slip or any kind of time slip with a little button here that gives you choices. Questions, thoughts? Okay.
So
no one asked, but I guess I'll just say it anyway. Are we going to do real-time two-way sync with GSuite? No. Right now, I don't think we're doing it. We're not doing it. We went down that road once before, and you know the truth is it's so close to something that we could easily deliver until you get it. But where it tends to be the real pain is recurring events and how the various calendaring systems handle all-day events. It just it ends up being messy, and we did it for a while with Outlook. And when I came here, there was a developer who every single week had about half of his work was just dealing with real-time sync with Outlook Calendar. So we don't do real-time two-way sync. You can subscribe, of course, to your Google Calendar or to your Legal Server calendar over in Google, which works pretty well, I think. And this is the other way around. This gives you a view of your Google Calendar, which is also, I think the only thing that makes that really useful is if you can then do something with it. And the something that we've built so far is you can create a case time slip.
To go back to the iframe, are those just views, or those, and actually like if it's you have an iframe of an external website, can you click on links on it? And no.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll click over there at the end. That's the great thing. And the reason I put this in the Google presentation is that the Google stuff works great. You can manipulate an entire spreadsheet inside an iframe in Legal Server.
Why couldn't you just put your Google Calendar in an iframe?
You absolutely can. We do. We put our Google training calendar inside an iframe.
So I could
you'll lose.
Go ahead.
Yep.
You'll lose what?
There may be the contextual things that you do inside a Google Calendar. I'm trying to think, but yeah, go ahead and stick whatever you can in there. It's just that the only one that Google makes easy for you to iframe in is essentially like the month or week view, if that makes any sense. But
no, I've done on our internal website. I've iframed in like office leave calendar, so you can see at a glance people's vacation schedules and things like that. But okay, cool. If I could stick it inside,
the magic would be if you, if you could click on a day and initially, if that stuff carries over too. Yeah, I mean, let us know. Share with the team whatever integration. The fancier you stick it in, the better. You can get it in, the better. Okay, iframe block. Yep, I will demonstrate. So note to self: as soon as I finish here, we will actually show the iframe block. All right, and something that isn't working right now, really, that we were encouraged to experiment with was getting Legal Server in the Gmail inbox. I just heard from the one program that was experimenting with this that the authorization is not working again. All of the major platforms have gotten stingier about letting anybody be in their inbox. So like Chrome, so there's a bunch of add-ons that were once Gmail inbox add-ons that are now Chrome add-ons. So they got to put them in Chrome instead of, in the inbox. But so we need to readdress that. But the reason I'm showing it to you is, you know, I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to jog everybody's imagination for what the most useful integrations would be, and to tell you that we have gone down this path. I think it's a bit fraught, but we'll try to get this authorization fixed. But what it did, and what it will do when we get it fixed for this agency again, is it tries to it lets you basically, from the context of the case, figure out, it tries to figure out which case this email is about, and then you can just forward the email to the case easily from your inbox. And so, as you know, forwarded emails from anywhere get attached as case notes, and then any attachments to the emails get attached as documents. So it was really what it was, a more convenient, the idea was inside your inbox, you could say, oh, I need the opposing counsel sent me a piece of discovery or whatever via email. I'm going to just forward this to the case, and without having to go hunt for the case email, you can do it right inside your inbox. So the question is whether this is part of GSuite integration. Right now, we're not offering it to anybody because we need to, like I say, it just broke again based on some new authorization rules from Google, but it's something still in like rough beta, I would say. But if that gets resolved, we'll revisit. And then the next question I'll have for the developers is, can we make this all easier if we have SSO, which again, I'm not like, I feel like I'm trying to sell SSO, but the advantage there is we know exactly who you are right away. So you don't have to tell users to authorize any special app from inside their Gmail settings. So, and I don't know, I see the question. I right now, I would think that we would make this part of one of the integrations, probably lump it in with the Team Drive integration, but right now I don't know. So we try to do the pricing is, it's just not fair to agencies who aren't using this tools that we spend a lot of our energy on the little corners. And so we try to figure out, one of the big questions I always have is what does the support burden look like? How much do my staff need to be answering questions? And part of that calculation is, you know, how broken does it make things if it's broken? So with this, I just don't know. It's too early days to know what pricing would be like, or whether we just lump it in with something else. Right now we're struggling a little, but I wanted to show you that we had thought about this integration too. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute. I'm going to get the Iframe Block demonstration ready, but do folks have other like wishes for integrations or ideas that they wanted to share with us that you're looking for?
Calendar is a major one.
Okay, so, and what do you mean by that? I heard somebody say calendar was a major one, but I think you saw what we're doing. Go ahead.
No, to get calendar to work right would be cool. I'm going to experiment with that iframe thing here, and I'll see what I can accomplish. That's what our biggest complaint for people is, having to keep stuff in their legal server calendar, but wanting it on their Google calendar or their paper calendar. We still have people who love carrying around their day planners, but I don't get it, but they do. But
yeah,
that's the biggest for managers. Where do I look to find out where everybody's doing? Do I look in everybody's G calendar, or do I look in it's hard to look at an entire office in the legal server calendar. If you have a large office, there's a lot of overwhelming stuff in there. So anyway,
there is. I agree. Well, how interested are you in that example that I showed, where you have like in the calendar view in legal server, you have a separate view of like today's Google Calendar with some filtering available, and then I guess the one sort of legal server special thing is that you could fire off create a time slip from it. What are your thoughts there?
I think that's pretty cool. I think the longer view, a week view would be perfect, and I realize the complexities of trying to make it look like a calendar as opposed to an agenda, is essentially what you've, that kind of I mean, people can get their daily agendas emailed to them out of everything too, but you know, I'm not an advocate. I don't live in the legal server calendar as much as others do, so I'd have to talk to them, see what's more useful to them. But I'm going to guess at a minimum a week view would be perfect. A daily view is a great start, though.
Got it. Okay. Well, we'll keep chugging. Okay, so I saw another idea or another suggestion. Is there currently a magic folder system, way to connect the profile to a specific folder on a server? Not, again, Gmail is, Google is search. Yeah, Steve was answering it. Google is search based. The only way I can think of to do that would be if in your folders you had a really strict naming convention where they had to put, let's say, the legal server case number in there, and then we made some changes to the block so that you could sort of optionally flip a switch that said only when you search all of the folders in GSuite, only return the results if their parent folder name contains the case number. So it's not impossible with Google's APIs being pretty flexible. It's currently not set up that way. And as Alan, if you heard the earlier thing, it's actually not, you could probably create the API to tell the team drive to create a folder when you create a case. I would love to think through what you would need to do. You may have to actually build a little tiny app on the Google side to catch that API call, or to just say, hey, there's already a folder with that. Or I'm thinking on the fly here. I suppose I don't know if you want your users to have to think about this, but I suppose something you can do is
the less the users have to think, the better.
Right. I mean, you could show the team drive block right there, and you could say, if there's no results below, too user dependent.
Jeff, this is Steve. So you would agree, though, that we're trying to avoid trying to integrate with like local servers, though we're looking more at integrations with like a web-based or cloud-based system, just because of the so many different flavors and styles of servers and document storage out there, that it'd be hard for us to make a connection to someone's local storage.
Right. Oh, it'll never be. No, we will not be connecting to anybody's local storage. It's going to have to be it has to be one of the web-based tools that can deal with APIs. Now, if you want to get into what does a hybrid cloud look like, there's some potential out there. If you want to Google for, trying to think, there's an alternative to Microsoft. Microsoft, what do I call it? What's the thing that controls permissions everywhere? Oh, well, I guess it is Active Directory. It's like an alternative to that, but also controls resources. The important part there is what it does is it supposedly knows all about your local resources too, which talks up to it, like Active Directory in the cloud. Nope, it's not Azure AD, but it's a competitor actually. So that if it was invisible to us, it could probably work. But I can tell you, our experience is, anybody, I'm sorry, no offense to anybody on the call, we're trying to link into resources that are in a broom closet or under somebody's desk, those things are not up all the time, and these things have to be up all the time. So it's pretty much got to be a web-based solution. If the magic folder question is really about, hey, that's what the methodology we're used to, is that there's one folder that matters for each case. Thank you for the feedback. I need to think about it some more, but I bet I think we could build an option with the Google block to look at a magic folder. And I'm repeating myself now, but I think we have to come back to how do we make sure that we aren't creating duplicate folders in Google. So we need to we need to look at what it would take to build a sort of app on the other end that doesn't let you create a new folder if there already is one. So there's a question, are we going to do this for SharePoint? Probably. Right now I'm so busy running around with, so Dropbox, we're doing a Dropbox integration right now that we're working on. We're talking with NetDocuments, got SharePoint, and that one's further along. And a lot of folks really want the sort of legal server document to fade into the background and everything be more SharePoint dependent. So there's a lot of influx with SharePoint, but I don't think it'll be terribly long before we're ready to talk about the SharePoint integration. Again, one thing that we've just learned is it's actually, I kind of wanted there to be a whole consultant garden out there who did everything else, but it's just, so far it's just been easier for us to walk in, especially if you're starting from scratch with SharePoint, to just do both ends of the integration. I saw the comment on Dropbox. Yep, just talk to whoever if you're just send an email to support, and we should, unless something goes way haywire, we should be at least in beta on Dropbox integration for others by the end of the summer. Don't know what pricing is going to be because I don't know how hard it is yet. We're just kind of early days, but looks okay. NetDocs, I got to say, so far their APIs look great. Google's still #1 when it comes to APIs though, so far. Okay, I'm doing a terrible job of trying to demonstrate the iframe block. It looks like the configuration has changed a little bit. The full address URL, because what we did something different to the iframe block, and what we did is we made it so that you could well, I'm going to show you what we did. I may have to beg off of that one, and I promise I'll send around something to site admins to follow up on my promise. So I'll go to all site admins, but I did want to show you what we did to the iframe block to make it even fancier. But it made simple iframing look a little harder. Let's see. Meet case, Jeff. This one may. It's coming. I know. I'll share my screen in just a moment. I really want to show the JustFix integration. I could have sworn that was on AGM demo. Heckfire. All right, 1 second. Well, this is an awful demonstration. I'm sorry. I failed in showing the iframe block well in this one, but I'm going to show you this configuration piece. So one of the things that we did, which is kind of cool, is there's a little bit of templating here. And so JustFix NYC is an example. What they did is we can basically iframe their entire site, and then also include some the borough block lot in New York City. And the groovy thing is that by basically just iframing something with a special URL that changes based on case data, we're able to iframe in information about that specific address. No, I guess I can show you over here. Let's see. Yep, we'll do it this way. So this is what it looks like. This is just an iframe, but because I was able to send this URL over to JustFix in New York City with this borough block lot in New York City identified, here iframed into legal server is information about that specific address for this case without the user having to type anything in. So apologies on the iframe example. I will send it out to the site admins, more information about the iframe block, and apologize I couldn't do it on the fly today. Other ideas for like G Suite integrations that you really want to see? G Suite integration from the grants or outreach module. What would you want? What would you want to integrate over there? And Steve, what's the link to the demonstration? Oh, you know, the version of Legal Server that has all the how-tos embedded in it. You know,
Are you talking about the base site?
I guess it's on base now. Yeah. The one that yeah, okay. So this is these are that's actually I guess in the instruction box, but there's a video these are all YouTube videos that are in there. There's and one of the things that we do when you're onboarding is down here, there's the meeting information, and then this project, Heckfire, that example doesn't have it in there, but this has the entire project management schedule in there. And although we don't let our clients change the project management schedule, if you have the permissions, you actually can manipulate the entire spreadsheet from in there. And then of course the training calendar is in there with valid links, and you can still navigate inside of the calendar by sticking it in there. Yeah, so, oh, I see. So Team Drive for outreaches, I love it. That's a great one. The answer is I don't know, but I see no reason why we couldn't. The trick would be if you want to do Team Drive for outreaches, what's the automatic search, right? So we got to figure out when it goes to go find documents that are related to that outreach, what's the sort of, what's the magic key to find that? So one thing could be you create a new folder for every outreach I got to make sure we actually have that for the Go API for outreaches. I don't know that we do, or maybe we have to build that. So it creates, you could create a folder. Otherwise, if you want to do searching, we need to figure out what data items do we have about that outreach that you could use to search intelligently for documents related to outreach. I mean, one thing we would have is when was outreach created, so you could do a big slice by only return documents that are created after this outreach was created, but we could do some other fun stuff too. Now that I think about it, for outreach, that may not be relevant because you might have created like a you know, your workers' rights for working from home when working from home before that happened. I'm sorry. Thinking out loud. I like it though. Let me talk to the team about outreaches. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Another thing now that I think about with outreaches, are you using Team Drive for your outreaches? I wonder. And you probably aren't making separate Team Drives for every outreach. But if all your outreach documents are in, let's say, a Team Drive, that's not too huge of a pool to mess with. So I think if we could talk about what the search criteria were, probably do that pretty usefully, especially if we can add this feature of pinning the document, say, yep, that's the right one. Okay. Other G Suite integration ideas. What you tell us. I mean, the G Suite's gigantic. What would relieve a pain point? What's something we could do that's a hassle? So for me, when I worked in legal aid, the thing I hated the most was keeping my time. So that's why I was excited about, you know, nudging them along in the calendar thing. Like, in a way that makes, you know, I can create a time slip right for my Google Calendar. That's great. But you all tell me, what are some pain points that you think we could bring a solution to help with? Clever. Okay, just got a suggestion. The G Suite task list integrated with legal server tasks. I think what we would need to do probably is, I mean, we could show them, that's one thing, but if you want to attach them to a case, we'd have to think about a way to attach the task to a case. I don't know. Let me think about that. Thank you. All right. Well, we are coming up to the top of the hour. I hope this was helpful. I promise to do it again in 6 months. I know it sounds like a long time, but that's a flash when it comes to software development, just to see where things are. And in the meantime, I encourage you to think about single sign-on. And if you're a heavy Team Drive user, let's talk. If you contact me, I'll nudge you over to Aaron Krause, who can help you with change order stuff. But yes, Google Maps. So I always forget that we already have a Google integration to some degree that we rely on pretty heavily. Optionally in an intake, you can choose to show a Google Maps link. Let me find one that's already created. Wow, this is set up strangely. Where's the pending? Sure.
We use it on our site for addresses, so you can click on an address and see where it is. Sometimes you find out they aren't real addresses.
Yeah, I love this. So the Google, matter of fact, when I did housing work, I always wanted to see it, and it helped me remember addresses and helped me. I found this super useful. Most people have this turned off on their sites, but if you have, does everybody get this, or is it only if you have geocoding? I can't remember. But this Google link, it's in the address block. Like your advocacy, just click on it and see the address of the that's been put in here. But this was a good suggestion. Search for certain types of services near clients automatically. I love it. And Ivy loves it too. We've talked about that a little bit in the disaster context, for like where are the disaster recovery centers and that sort of thing. Auto search. I love it. For certain types of services. I guess I'd want to know more about what kinds of services on a daily basis. Are we talking about like soup kitchens? Love it. If you have if you have any specific suggestions of the kinds of services we might want to surface, that's awesome. Okay, team. I'm losing my people. Thank you all for medical providers. Yes, and other legal service providers. I'm glad it was helpful. Next time I'll bribe you to turn on your camera so you can see us all, since the whole world, I think, is going to have to get used to working remotely the way things are going. But many thanks to all of you, and please be in touch, and we'll keep trying to improve these tools as quickly as we can. Thanks, everybody. Stopping the recording. That Travis? What's going on?